In today's video, I want to talk about one of the single dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire career that was uttered by a doctor to somebody who had neck pain. I'm going to share a true story and I'm going to explain the mentality of the doctor and the mentality that you need to adopt in order to get out of neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain, knee pain, hip pain, foot and ankle pain, whatever pain. Because if you don't understand the distinction between these two mentalities, you're basically going to be trapped and you're going to succumb to all kinds of idiotic treatments that doctors will offer you because they are supposedly evidence-based and also they are 100% great at generating revenue for the doctors and the hospitals. So if you're ready, let's get ready to think right, move right, and feel right. So first off, right now I am in Central Oregon, and last night I was with my wife and my son and we were looking up at the night sky and it was gorgeous. Stars everywhere. There's no light pollution around to mess around with our ability to see the stars. And while I was looking up at the sky, I noticed there was a stretch sensation under my chin, and I noticed that my neck muscles all around were getting a little fatigued because I don't normally look up like this for long periods of time. And it reminded me of this story of a lady who came to work with me probably about 7 or 8 years ago who had neck pain and had long-standing neck pain. She had already gone to see a Western doctor, or probably 10, and one of the doctors gave her one of the worst pieces of advice I have ever heard, and I'm going to share it with you right now. She went to the doctor and said, whenever I look up, my neck really hurts and it can hurt for a long time. And the doctor's solution, his prescription, was stop looking up. And so when she came to see me, she had this hardwired into her brain now, because the doctor who has, the doctor garb and has the certificates and the degrees and whatever said, don't look up. Looking up is bad for you. It's bad for your neck. There's nothing worth looking up for, so you shouldn't bother looking up anyway, especially because it just damages your neck. If that just made you spit out your food, I'm glad we're on the same page, because it's literally the stupidest thing you could possibly say to a human animal. Here are 3 reasons why that's idiotic. Number 1 is when you're a baby, as a human baby, looking up is basically all you are trying to do. You actually do a bunch of neck extension to start building up strength in the back of your neck so that you can actually manage the weight of your head, so that you can actually do stuff like crawl on the floor. And guess what? When you're face down and you're trying to look forward when you're crawling, that's basically like looking up. That's doing this. And that's a very natural human position for your head and neck. So that's 2 reasons why it's already idiotic to say this position is bad for you. But the 3rd reason is, in a non-technological world where you aren't constantly glued to a screen that's either down here or right here or on a laptop or whatever right here in front of you, you actually would probably be looking up a lot more than you do right now. Because if you didn't have a phone and a screen to tell you a weather forecast that has questionable accuracy anyway, you would be looking up at that thing to try to understand what's about to happen today or the next day in terms of weather. If you were hunting for food, stalking your prey, or you're looking for stuff in trees like, I don't know, fruit, you would have to look up on a regular basis. But because pretty much everything gets handed to us and we no longer have a connection to the natural world, and I'm not suggesting that I really have a strong connection, I'm just saying if we were still doing stuff with nature, looking up at trees, if we were still having to crawl, climb, clamber, run and jump, we would still have to have the ability to look up, and it wouldn't be unnatural. Also, the assertion that there's nothing worth seeing when you look up was the part that really sealed the deal for me. I wanted to literally punch this doctor in the face because, hey man, there are stars, there's a sky, there are birds. It's seriously the stupidest thing you could possibly say, but I guess if you live your life trapped in a little box of a room with blinding fluorescent overhead lights and you've been taught that that's the natural environment for a human, then I could see how you might come up with this idea that looking up is bad for you. So that's just 3 reasons. If you have more reasons that you can think of that looking up is actually a normal, natural, good thing for you, please drop them in the comment section down below. Now let's talk about the mentality behind this doctor's statements and beliefs. This all falls under the category of the physically feeble fallacy, which I've talked about in a previous video and podcast episodes. But basically what this means is somebody who is physically incompetent in some way and or just unable to imagine a solution to your physical problem believes that because they don't have a solution, there is no solution, and that the state you're in is natural because it's not solvable from their limited perspective. And then they will tell you that any attempts to try to solve the problem are hopeless and futile and will only make you worse, which then traps you into this situation where you're in pain, but it makes this other person feel better about their incompetence, and you feel a little bit less bad about your situation because you realize or believe that it's not your fault. Unfortunately, you're still physically uncomfortable, you're not gaining any strength, you're not gaining any function because this other person has hit you hard with a physically feeble fallacy. So I want you to remember this. If you go to any kind of health practitioner and you tell them, I have a problem moving my body in a certain way, and they tell you, it's because it's unnatural and bad for you to move that way, then you're dealing with a moron and you should stop seeing them and stop asking them for help. Modern Western medical education emphasizes basically nothing about musculoskeletal anatomy. If you look into the curricula in today's medical schools all across the United States, you'll find that almost none of them spend more than a week, maybe two, on musculoskeletal anatomy for their students. That means your average general practitioner has no idea where your levator scapula is, or your upper trapezius, or your lower trapezius. They probably don't even know where the latissimus dorsi attach. How many hamstrings are there? Who knows? It could be 10. This isn't to say that doctors are bad people, it's just that they're not trained to think about how muscles connect, how they relate, and how they move your body. I've even worked with physical therapists as my clients who didn't really understand how the muscles related to one another, didn't understand what muscles were firing in a given motion. That's because the modern Western medical system is geared towards billable treatments for specific discrete diagnoses. That's not a system that's geared to help you if you have some sort of painful movement problem, because painful movement problems can come from an almost infinite number of permutations because you have muscles that are going all over the place, that attach in different directions, that have fibers going this way, that way, the other way, that go way long down to other areas, which then means that those muscles can be susceptible to influence from other muscles that might be down here. But how are you going to break all of those options down into easy, discrete, billable codes? It's a whole heck of a lot easier to say, oh, well, your wrist and hand pain, that's because there's a ligament that's deformed on you, so we just need to cut it. Or you have bad hip pain, that's because your bones are deformed and we just need to cut it. You have neck pain, well, that's because your neck is deformed, you shouldn't be looking up anyway, and if you keep looking up, we're gonna cut it. Instead of allowing people to infect you with this idiocy, you need to remember to ATM, always think muscles. Movement problems are muscle problems. Muscle problems cannot be fixed by other people for you. You need to train muscles to be able to be strong, to be long, so that they have strength at every length, so you have volition at every position. And if you don't know what volition is, please go use the dictionary. It's okay, I'll wait. The point here is that muscles move your bones around. So if you find you are in pain when your muscles are moving bones to a certain position, it means you need to train the muscles better to accommodate that motion, to accommodate that position. So for me, looking up at the stars last night, I realized, holy cow, I just don't look up very much, and it's kind of awkward. Like the skill of just looking up and continuing to look up, it's not something I've practiced, and muscles in the front of my neck have gotten stiff and tight because what am I normally doing? I'm looking down at the computer, I'm looking down at the phone. These muscles are just not used to being there. So it's something I need to be aware of, something I need to think about. Maybe I need to spend more time crawling on the ground, maybe I need to invert, maybe I need to do some yoga positions, whatever it is. I have to take responsibility for this physical incompetence. It's not gonna help me to go see a doctor who doesn't know what the platysma is, barely understands what the scalenes do, and has pretty much no idea that there are even muscles on the back of the neck that actually also function as movers and stabilizers of the scapula. So remember to ATM, always think muscles. Now, to be really accurate, we do have to remember that it is possible that you could have cancer or something really bad going on in your body. So it is important for you to rule those things out. But remember, those are super rare. So don't just jump into that conclusion of like, oh my God, my neck hurts, so I must have some sort of tumor growing in my neck. It's pretty rare, and as long as a doctor has looked at that and said, well, that's not the problem, then just think about your muscles. That's it from me today. Remember, you can look up at the sky. It is actually good for you. Look at the stars, look at trees, look at the birds. It's totally cool. It's not bad for your neck. Your body is supposed to move. Remember, the only time you're supposed to be fully still and not move your body is when you are hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Subscribing helps so much here on YouTube. If you want to support this channel monetarily, you can use the join or thanks buttons on YouTube, find me on Patreon, or use the donate link you'll find in the description box. I've also got more videos to help you strengthen your mind and body here. Get my newsletter at uprighthealth.com/newsletter. And as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks, life shouldn't. Airplanes love to fly overhead whenever I record a video.